More with lists. Every list has a built-in read-only len attribute, which is short for length. This holds the total elements of the list at the time it is called. It is much more efficient to use len rather than the number of elements when coding, as that number could change, but len will change automatically as the list changes. So for this list here, print len x will output 5, since there are 5 items in the list. The syntax for using the len attribute is len list name. So this represents length, then we have parentheses, and then we have the name of the list. Len has numeric value, and so it can also be stored in a variable like this, where a is now equal to 5. When analyzing AP pseudocode, there is the length attribute to consider, which serves the same function as the Python len attribute. Length in all caps represents length, then we have parentheses and the name of the list. Length has a numeric value, and so it can also be stored in a variable like this, where a is now equal to 5. Let's try another example. Write a program that will add the digits 9, 5, 4, 2, and 1 and output the sum. Alright, so here's the program. Let's go through it together. So we have our list, x equals 9, 5, 4, 2, 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to sum them up by looping through the list, adding each number to the sum variable, and then printing it, which we've done before. So we have our sum variable equal to 0, then we have our counter variable equal to 0, which is I, and that's going to be the index value, and it's going to go up through the loop. So while I is less than, so here's the new part. We're putting len x instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We used to write while I is less than 5, because that would loop through the list. But now we want to use len x instead, because what if the length of the list changes? Then we don't want to have to go through our entire program changing 5 to 6 and then to 7 and so on. This will automatically count the number of items in the list. So that's all that's really changed. We have sum plus equals xi, so we access each element using the index value and the list name. Then we increment I by 1, otherwise it will be a infinite loop. Then at the end we print the value of sum. 21. So there we go. So this is a very common way to use the length attribute, is doing loops like this. It is considered good practice to always use the length attribute instead of the actual number of elements in a list. In this example, len x is the same thing as putting 5. Python counts the number of elements so that you don't have to. Note, the code could have also been written with a for loop like this, in which case length would not be needed. So either way works. However, why would the line sum plus equals xi change to sum plus equals I? With the while loop, the I is holding the index value of the list, not the item at that index. So we need to use xi to add the correct value to the sum. In the for loop version, the I is representing the values in the list one at a time, not the index value. So we just need to add I to the sum.